Hello, so I'm reversing articulated lorries in this video 5 times. Now let me tell you something about the interface of handbrake and gearbox on most of the lorries. I'm telling you this because the next lorry I'm going to park is a Volvo, and it has a weirdly unique interface of handbrake and gearbox. So on most lorries in Europe, which means not including Volvo, the handbrake is always on the center, which means it's on the left if you have a right-hand drive lorry, and it's on the right if you have a left-hand drive lorry. And the handbrake is always a lever. You pull it down or pull it towards you to apply handbrake, and that's it. But it's not like that on Volvo. And then the gearbox for automated gearbox, interface for automated gearbox, you always have a manual what's it called, manual gear selector, like gear shift lever. It's always a lever on the right, column mounted, and it's always on the right. And if you put it in manual mode and you pull the lever towards you to shift up, and you push it away from you to shift down, and then the gear selector where you select drive, neutral or reverse. Park does not exist, just for the car drivers to know, automatic car drivers to know. On buses and lorries, there is no park for you to select. There's only drive, neutral and reverse, and it's always, well, not on some lorries, but most of the time it's drive first instead of reverse first. And the gear selector, where you select D, N or R, is sometimes mounted to the manual gear shift lever, and sometimes it's mounted separately on the center of the lorry. And like this on Scania and Mercedes, it's mounted on the lever, so you just give it a simple twist to shift to drive or reverse. It's always twist, and it's sometimes a button, 3 buttons. And yeah, right. So this is Scania, and this is Volvo. Okay, let me explain. Unlike most other lorries, on this Volvo specifically, not other Volvos, on this Volvo the handbrake is actually a button. You pull the button to apply the handbrake, and then pull the button to put the handbrake off. Yeah, that's weird. So you pull it to apply, and then pull it again to have it off. That's confusing. And if you have it on, there's a light, and it will light up to indicate that the handbrake's on. Which means if you have if you shut off your engine and electricity, you can't see if you have your handbrake on. And also the gear selector, unlike most other lorries, the gear selector here is actually a lever. So on other lorries it's a button. You twist the button or push the button. On here it's a lever. And then the manual gear shift is actually buttons. You push the plus or minus button to shift up or down, which is weird. And also when you look at the dashboard, you can find that the engine speed is actually in the speedometer. And when you look at the speedometer, there's a little bit gap between 0 and 10, and then it goes back to normal above 10, which is weird, unlike most other lorries, which have a speedometer, a circle, and then the engine speed, another circle, and then the dashboard, the digital display at the center of the dashboard. Look, the digital display on this is on the right and left, which is, and these are some of the reasons why we don't like Volvo. I don't understand why people do such a thing. And the next one is a man. Let me tell you something brilliant about the man. While it is brilliant, it is not so brilliant. So the gear selector, not the sequential shifting lever in manual mode, no, not that, just the DNR thing. It's on my left, and it will be on the right if you have left-hand drive lorry, and the handbrake is behind the lever, no stroke. The handbrake is behind. Handbrake is a lever, and it's behind the gear selector. The gear selector is a twist button on here, and the handbrake is behind the gear selector, which is brilliant if you always use handbrake and shift. But this is not so brilliant because it's in your way when you try to go to the rest part of your cab. For example, your bed, like when you sleep, and it's on the way, which is not ideal if you always rest on the motorways. And the gear selector and the handbrake are placed next to your seat. Oh, did I forget to tell you about the Volvo? On the Volvo, the gear selector is next to your seat, to the center. So let me reverse this. Actually, reversing in the game is a lot harder because of the 2D effect. You actually see 3D in real life. So in this mirror, you can't see if your tail is ahead of an object or behind an object. You can't see that because of the lack of 3D effect, which is why driving in real life is actually easier. But I still parked amazingly. This is a Mercedes. This bendy Mercedes-Benz is not that bendy Mercedes-Benz, also known as Chariots of Fire. And let me tell you something more about the game, which is more difficult than in real life. So in real life, you use your foot or feet to operate the pedals. Well, if you have a manual lorry, you need to operate what's it called, clutch on your left, and if you don't, you can just use your right foot, and then you use your hands to operate the steering wheel and buttons and levers, etc. And then you use your head to turn around and see. However, in this game, you operate your foot functions and hand functions and head functions all using your hands, which is hard. like for example turning your head, especially turning your head. And this is not brilliant at all. And in real life you have a wider angle of view. Let me tell you something about this Mercedes. So this Mercedes in the game, the speedometer is actually showing kilometers per hour on the outside, and then inside it shows miles per hour, which I can't see clearly because I don't know what it's like in real life, but you can put the dashboard in speed display and it will show in the unit of your settings. And I actually found that some Mercedes vehicles in miles per hour market are showing kilometers per hour with a miles per hour digital display. And this Mercedes does not come with manual gearbox in real life. It only comes with automated gearbox, the Mercedes-Benz Actros. While most other lorries come with automated and manual gearboxes of your options. And the last one is DAF. It is Dutch. Did I forget to tell you about the countries? So the first and the second, Scania and Volvo, I drove off from are Swedish, and then the MAN and the Mercedes are are German. This is Dutch. Well, actually, DAF has, I believe that it has a factory in the UK. So technically, there are some British DAF. I believe that they are branded as DAF, and the name of the factory is actually Leyland Trucks. Yes, it is called Leyland, the long-loved Leyland brand. And you can see I painted all my trucks pink because I like pink. And all trucks in this game, actually there are only 5, have the chassis of 6x2 4/4, which means it has 6 wheels and wheel pairs in total, and it's driven by 2 wheel pairs and steered by 4 wheels, and the steering wheels are all ahead of the driving wheel pairs, whatever. And you can see all lorries on the left and right above the window. I put 2 Union Jacks on one lorry, on each lorry. 2 Union Jacks, which makes it less aerodynamic. Which is not a good thing to do in real life. Because Union Jacks are amazing, right? Isn't it? A Union Jack is excellent. You can see many flags of different countries have Union Jacks on them, like the Australian flag and lot. Oh, and British Hong Kong. Okay, here we go. Thank you for watching. Good night.